Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Movie Trivia Schmoedown.
What's going on, Movie Trivia Schmoedown fans? It is episode number 16 of the Schmoedown Rundown. My name is Aaron. I am your host for this episode. Joining me today is Paul Wolf. What's going on, man?
Hey, how you doing? I cannot wait to talk about what we just saw this week.
Big stuff going on. So right off the top, I want to thank everybody for the positive comments on my transition to the Schmoeville After Show. I really appreciate that. You know, Brian and I will do our best to continue to put on a good show. Ryan Snelling is a great guy, and I'm sorry that he left, but he's going on to bigger and better things. So hopefully we just right the ship and don't sink it. So, yeah, check that out tomorrow. And just for the record, I mean, I put this in the Movie Trivia Schmoedown Facebook group, but nothing changes with this show. I'm still the host, same panel, same time. Same channel, same everything for now. All right. Also in this episode, I did sit down yesterday with John Rocha. You know him as the Outlaw, and we talked a little bit about Dan Murrell. We talked a little bit about the future of Team Top 10 and his thoughts on Finstock versus Makuga. So definitely check that out. It's going to be later in this episode before we do the championship preview. So let's get to some news, Paul. Let's start breaking some stuff down. Let's get to this piece of news that I was given exclusively from Commissioner Harloff. It's about the free-for-all. Now, it's the Royal Rumble type event for the Schmoedown. It's exciting stuff. And Paul, I'm going to kick this to you because I want you to tell everybody who the first confirmed entrant is for the free-for-all. I don't think people are going to believe this, so I need you to say it for me. Who is the first confirmed entrant for the free-for-all?
Man, I am honored to announce to you that the first entrant is none other than Dangerous Dan Murrell.
There you have it. Dangerous Dan Murrell throwing his hat into the ring. Dan Murrell reportedly is eyeing another championship. Not sure what that is. He did not say, but I do have it on good authority that Dan Murrell will be entering the free-for-all to go after yet another championship. So, Paul, what do you think of this news? What do you think of his chances?
Obviously, he's got a great chance. I mean, he racked up a third title in the last couple of weeks and just is mowing down everything. He's gathering up that information. He's soaking it in. And, I don't know what the free-for-all is going to be about. I cannot wait to hear what it's going to entail. But he's got the best chance of any to maybe take home whatever this belt is. And I cannot wait to see how it's set up. But as we've seen, I mean, Frank's stats have even said it. I mean, he's a juggernaut. He might run through this one too.
Yeah, he's absolutely outstanding. We will definitely get to see him in action next week in the championship match against none other than the Outlaw John Rocha. All right, now let's go on to something else that was announced this week. It's the new top 10 singles rankings. I'll go through these real quick, and then we'll discuss them. At number 10, we have Robert Meyer Burnett. If you watch this week's Schmoedown, that's probably going to change. At number 9, we have Mike Kalinowski. At number 8, we have Drew McWeeney. Number 7, Jeff Snyder. Number 6, the wild man Josh Makuga. Number 5, Kristian Harloff. Number 4, the classy one, Clark Wolf. Number 3, Mark Ellis. And number 2, Mark Yodi Riley. And, of course, the number 1 contender currently is John the Outlaw Rocha. Paul, what sticks out to you in this list?
The absence of one Sam Levine. I don't exactly know why he's off the list. In fact, I think I might have seen somebody say that on Facebook, and I think Kristian did mention that he is missing and he forgot about him. I can't confirm that, but I don't know if it's going to change or not. But with the Robert Meyer Burnett match today, who knows? Levine could pop back in there. The one thing that I see, and I know Frank and I talked about this too off air, Harloff and Wolf, I kind of think can be switched. Just one spot, just switch them. That's it. The rest of them, I kind of agree with. I cannot believe the tear that, I guess that's a pun, a tear that Riley has been on with Levine and with the team match, and just he seems to be riding the ship. And that number 2 spot is definitely a welcomed spot for him. And seeing that Ellis is off of singles for now, being still third, I can see that. Why we're not still third. Was he second or was he third the last time? I can't remember.
Ellis was second.
Okay, so yeah, I can see why he did go down a little bit. Riley's been on fire, and Ellis has not performed yet. So that's the only thing that I saw as like the absence of Levine and having Wolf and Harloff switched. That's the only thing that I've seen as my take on the top 10.
I'm kind of with you there. I think I would even, and this is no offense, obviously, but I would move Clark to 6, and I would put Kristian at 4 and Makuga at 5. I think Makuga's got a couple more quality wins than Clark, but she has had that shot at the title, so I can see why she's still in that top 5. Things are going to change. Obviously, Burnett's going to probably drop out. McWeeney and Kalinowski have a match next week, so that's probably going to change. As of right now, I'm okay with it, but if this had title match implications, I wouldn't have Classy Clark Wolf in the top 5. Of course, no disrespect, but.
Right. I don't think strength of schedule, I don't know if he puts in strengths of schedule, but yeah, I would definitely see when you brought up Makuga, he winning that match against Finstock or whatever you want to call him. It was Findraka, whatever. That to me could have bumped him up, and I completely concur with what you said too. So that'd be another change I could see in that top 10. But of course, with Robert Meyer Burnett with his match today, him not being on there, and maybe. I don't know. Maybe Navarro bumps to that 10 spot. I don't know. Who knows? We'll see. I don't know how many times he updates it during the season, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Absolutely. Let's jump to the team recap this week. It was the Wolves of Steel, Clark, Wolf, and Mark Riley versus Team 6 Degrees, Brienne and Stacy. Before I get to the scoring breakdown, Paul, we got to talk about a couple things. Number 1, holy cow, those team entrances. I want to start with 6 Degrees entrance because outside of them being just adorable and so fun, did you notice John Humphrey's bedroom eyes in the back?
I did. I think everybody. I think he encapsulated everybody watching that entrance.
It was very creepy. It was super creepy. But what did you think of the 6 Degrees entrance? Did you have fun with that?
I tell you what, I wrote on my notes for this episode, we have already a stacked nominee list for best entrance. I don't know how people could keep topping it, but it keeps happening. And I completely just jaw to the floor, like laughing enjoyment of it all. And I just adore, like you said, I adored even the promo beforehand with 6 Degrees dressed up as the Wolves of Steel. Like, even if they came out like that would have been even cooler too. But
funny.
But being that I think they dressed up as being an aberration of that team, kind of in tribute. They weren't really making fun of them in a way. They were just kind of like you heard Brienne say that she wanted to be Clark, and so it was kind of a nice little nod for him. They wanted to dress up like him. Little creepy with the single weight female thing. I'm like, okay, that turned a little bit, but still. I mean, that entrance with the Grease song play, and it was great. I loved it.
Ken Knapsack as their Gordon Bombay.
I did see that too. Yes,
I like the D2 reference. Knuckle puck time. All right, and also on the other end, holy cow! So Clark Wolf comes out in the Jason mask, which I honestly at first thought it was Riley, and I was like, oh, okay, this is cool, and then it wasn't. And Riley comes out looking like a deranged, as I think Kristian put it, a deranged librarian, and may or may not have damaged the legs of the of Team 6 Degrees. I'm not sure what happened there. What did you think of this guy?
He just, again, keeps topping himself. I mean, he used to come out, Man of Steel, different colored shirt, Superman. He seems to be sliding away from that a little bit more, finding more of a more entertaining type character with himself. I mean, he's coming out. He did the James Bond that shocked everybody, thinking he was going to come out as Superman, but this time around, coming out as a deranged Fred from Scooby-Doo or whatever. It was just it was so surprising to see that, and it was really, really fun as well. And yeah, he I think Brienne's knees got a little bruised up a little bit because that table did shift a good, a foot and a half right into him. He just got a little too into it. But yeah, that coming up close to that camera shot was just like, they were committed basically, and more sense than one. They were committed to it. So yeah, even in that match, they upped the entrance to 6 degrees. I thought that was the better one of the two, and I just cannot I cannot believe how much time and effort people are putting into all of these entrances. And I don't know if it's Kristian pointing them in the direction or if it's the suggestions of the teams, if they're coming up with it on their own, but kudos all around it. Almost every entrance has been just stellar and just completely entertaining.
I don't know for a fact how they do coordinate those entrances, but I feel like, and this is once again no insider knowledge here, but I kind of feel like both teams like talk to each other like, hey, we're going to do a Grease thing and it's going to be fun. And they're like, all right, we'll do Friday the 13th and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure they didn't say, oh, well, Riley's actually going to run into you and run the table into your legs. I'm sure that was not included, but yeah, that's a lot of fun. Both teams deserve multiple awards for such great entrances for sure. But let's get to the scoring breakdown. In round 1, it was Wolves of Steel getting 11 points, Team 6 Degrees getting 10. In round 2, Team 6 Degrees spun DiCaprio, got 3 of 6 for 6 points. The Wolves of Steel landed on their strength of horror, got them all 6 for 6 for 10 points. The Wolves of Steel also nabbed 3 steals for 3 points. They led 24-16 after 2. And in round 3, it was 6 Degrees getting the 1, the 3, and the 5 to take a brief lead. Great job there. The Wolves of Steel grabbing the 1, and Mark Riley with Whoopi Goldberg to close. And the Wolves of Steel defeat Team 6 Degrees 28-25. Man, what were your feelings on this match?
I think outside of the match with Rotten Tomatoes way back, this match could be potentially the best team match combined that we've seen. I mean, it back and forth. I mean, it was a 28-25. I mean, it close to probably being one of the higher scoring matches that we've seen. And I actually have a little bit of news here too. Is round 1 now we'll have, out of the 8, 7 of them are going to be fixed. So the first 7 that we saw are actually going to be the same ones the whole rest of the way, except the last one's going to be rotating. So with the pattern we have caught up and have seen. Animated, action, adventure, comedy, drama, family, horror, thriller, which is now different. Now it's just not horror. And fantasy sci-fi will stay. And that last one will rotate. And so that's something new a little bit as well. So in a way, you have a little bit of advantage now that the teams are going to come up and the singles are going to come up there. They're going to know which ones they're going to be, except that last 8th spot. So that was interesting. I'm going to try to put my best foot, or I would say not foot, but I would say my best Frank hat on with saying the stat wise, we had Riley getting 7 of 8. He was on fire for that first round. Clark 4 of 8. So Riley definitely was the strength in that first round. And then Stacy getting 6 of 8 for 75%. The best answer so far with Tim Allen.
That's great.
Brienne disappointing me, and she knows this as well, with Home instead of Iron Giant, getting 4 of 8. And we may blame the restaurant she was at the local watering hole for that 4 out of 8, but I can see why she didn't get that one. She actually said that she thinks of the alien more as a robot, but Hogarth should have tipped her off on that one. No fault there, though, of course. They did a really strong job once they got past that round to round 2. And it's too bad Frank's not here, that round 2. I wonder if we've had that high of a round 2. I mean, it was
up there.
It was up there. And of course, I believe Riley is probably, I would say, the king of steals, because they got the 3 that 6 Degrees didn't get. They got all 3 of the multiple choices that they didn't get. And so that to me was kind of almost the turning point in a way, excuse me. And then, hitting that back and forth and having that lead almost slip away, but 6 Degrees, but getting all 3. I don't think we've seen that in a while yet, where a team has gotten all 3 at the end there to push it into sudden death. Getting that last question of that movie characters just tipped it off. I thought Riley played it where I think he didn't think he was going to get it. He had that look on his face. I don't know if he knew it and was just tricking everybody.
Clark knew
but yeah, Clark definitely knew it. You could hear that too. She's like, yes, at the end there. Kudos to Stacy for getting the Pixar question. It was more general, not specific. It was Grasshopper, not saying, who the Grasshopper was or who the voice of it was, but still kind of redeemed in my eyes the animation, lull that people have. Awesome altogether. I was impressed. 28-25, like I said, probably one of the highest team matches I've seen. And it was a great kickoff to the week.
A Bug's Life, one of those more obscure, I would say, Pixar films at this point, because it's a little bit older at this point, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it came out. It was the second movie in the Pixar library, because it was Toy Story, then Bug's Life came out. So yeah, it was 90. I want to say 96.
Okay.
Because Toy Story was 95, and so the next one was I don't know if it was 96 or 97 for Bug's Life, but actually I think it was 97. It was 97 because I worked at the movie theater at that time. And I think I was working at it when it was there. So I think it was 97.
Great Disney World attraction. If you've never been, it's a lot of fun.
Yes.
I would say that Brienne actually had the line of the match when she was asked the question that ended with Exodus about the 10 Commandments. And she said that I love Jesus. I thought that was a great line. But it was awesome to see finally, and Emma Fyffe even said this in the post-match, it was good to see the Wolves of Steel finally hit that potential, because they were firing on all cylinders, man. I think at one point they were up, what were they up, like 20-12 at one point? Like it was looking pretty bad early for 6 Degrees, but they hung in there. They took the lead later, so it was a great match all around. And now, like I said last week, whatever team won this match was going to go to the top. And it looks like the Wolves of Steel will be taking on ETC next for a potential, maybe possibly down the road, a title shot. And a couple months ago, we would not even be saying this. So what do you think is the reason for the Wolves of Steel turnaround?
Having 8 questions in the match be horror thriller, and the wheel finally agreeing with Clark. That definitely helped. I mean, that if you look at it, like I said, round 1 horror thriller, they both got it 4 out of 4. I mean, everyone got that one for round 1. Round 2, I mean, besides the 2 multiple choices from Wolves of Steel, they still got all of them, and they got horror in round 3. So it was a good smattering of it, and their strengths were highlighted. So the wheel helped them in that one. So, and it almost is like divine intervention in a way, because they needed it. They definitely needed it, and they were firing on all cylinders. And I think because the horror was so prevalent, I think they got their confidence on all the other ones as well. Once they got their confidence back, they got all the other questions. They were really, really successful in the other ones too. So I think that played a big part into it.
I think Frank might owe Mark Riley an apology, but
you know what? I think Riley might have to thank Frank. He might have lit a fire under him.
That's a good point. It's a good point. Maybe Riley should be thanking Frank. I don't know. We'll find out. A couple things. I wanted to read a couple of comments. I said in the Facebook group, the Movie Trivia Schmoedown Facebook group, which you should join, that I would pull some comments from Twitter, YouTube, and read them on the show, ones that I found particularly entertaining. And this one is about the Wolves of Steel versus 6 Degrees match. This one comes from Sammy the Sleazebag. Great name. Mark Riley looks like Charlie from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, except he didn't get the golden ticket and is going to murder his whole family. Drop the mic. That is spot on. That is actually exactly what I felt as well. And on Twitter, I pulled one from @KineticFox, who says, Miss Movies, Stacey Howard, can't wait for the next intro. Seeing you ladies makes me so happy watching the Schmoedown. I thought that was really nice and a nice thing to say. And I'm sure this Team 6 Degrees appreciated that as well. Always good to see them. Hope to see them again. Looks like they'll be taking on the Real Rejects coming up pretty soon. So that should be a rather interesting match for sure. As John called it, I believe, the sloppy seconds match. Awkward turtle to say the least. Let's jump to the second recap of the day, and that would be the InnerGeekdom Championship. We're kicking off championship week. It was the champion, Robert Meyer Burnett versus Hector Navarro in what has become quite the rivalry in the Schmoedown. Before we get to the scoring breakdown, I want to talk a little bit, Paul. We're really liking these opening promos. I think they've been getting better every single week, depending on who's on the mic. Robert Meyer Burnett, I've noticed this. I don't know if you noticed this in this match, but he was absolutely on fire on the mic. He legitimately scaring me on the mic. He had a very Ric Flair quality about him. I was feeling it. Like Ric Flair used to have that old intensity in his promos, and Burnett took that to heart. What did you think of him on the stick?
I'll tell you what, I was awaiting my daughter from volleyball practice, and I wrote down as I was watching the match, under promo, Burnett, oh my God, his heel work. Whale, blank, pestilence, oh my God. He could potentially, if he keeps this up, he could rival Rocha with heel work. Seriously, he brought it. And I literally sat back and just watched, and I was in awe. I don't know what inspiration he got, what villains he pulled from to do something like this, but unreal. Even during the match when we had a surprise come out to try to maybe strengthen the pot a little bit, he did the WWE heel work, like not on my time type of thing. I'll fight you when I want you to. You didn't earn it yet. The whole Inman thing coming in, he was like, you know what? And he was like he's building him up, and went, no, like it was just perfect. I want to give out kudos to him. Whomever is helping him with it, whoever he's researching, it is phenomenal. And that to me, most improved character right now goes to Robert Meyer Burnett in my eyes.
Absolutely. I think he has been tremendous. Absolutely tremendous. And I even went back and watched the promo a couple of times. And I was like, wow, this is really something. So I don't know where he's getting it either, but keep it up, man. It is fantastic. But let's get to the scoring breakdown. In round one, it was Robert Meyer Burnett getting 6 points, Hector Navarro getting 5. In round two, this is where it got very, very sweaty, to say the least. Hector Navarro rolls the MCU, which he passed on DC at first, which may or may not get him fired. I'm not sure. But he took MCU, got 4 out of 4 for 8 points, ended up being a pretty good choice. Robert Meyer Burnett, much like the Wolves of Steel, rolled his absolute strength, which was Star Trek. Got them all 4 for 4, 8 points. Fantastic. No steals from either guy because they got all their questions right. In round 3, it was Hector Navarro get -2 points for his Yoda response on the wager round. Robert Meyer Burnett did get 1 point for his answer of Boromir. In round 4, Hector Navarro got 3 correct for 3 points in the speed round. Burnett got 1 correct, did miss 1 for actually no points in that round. Into the final round, it was Burnett leading 15-14. Robert missed his first question on the 1-pointer, got his 3-pointer, but missed the 5. Hector got the 1, missed his 3, and got the 5. And we have a new InnerGeekdom champion. Hector Navarro has defeated Robert Meyer Burnett 20-18. What did you think of this one, man?
As advertised, it was unbelievable. In awe of their sweatiness. I mean, it just amazed me how quickly Robert Meyer Burnett knew those Star Trek questions, and it was without the inflection of that question. Normally if somebody answers a question, they're like, I don't know it, or maybe it's this. He was just like, boom, boom, boom. I mean, there was no multiple choice. It was everything, and there's in seconds. Like he knew everything. I couldn't get that sweaty. I mean, I used to be kind of a big Star Trek fan, but I'm like, I wouldn't have no idea. I don't know. It just completely was dumbfounded with that one. Navarro, same thing. I mean, I don't know how many times we've seen it where there's no steals because everyone gets all the questions. It was mind boggling to see how just amazing they all are in. Now, going back real quick to round 1, we did see Harry Potter being added. That wasn't in the Spectacular as far as I remember. Right. So that was a cool little twist there. But yeah, only seeing that one question, I believe. No, there was a couple of questions here and there with who played this character, who played that character in the later rounds. But I mean, it literally was knockdown, drag out. It was back and forth. It was you punched whatever you can do, I can do better. You name that phrase. It was literally that. I mean, it was back and forth, and I completely Loved every minute of it. Off to the side there, I did hear something from Kristian right before round 2 when Makuga brought out the wheel. He said something about a big announcement next Tuesday. I'm wondering what that was. That was just a little drop of a little nugget there. I don't know what that's all about, so we may have to stay tuned on that. Maybe he's a next match for him, or maybe he's gonna finally announce his partner in teams or what. But speaking of Makuga, in that speed round, we all had that issue a while ago with the buzzer, the audio cue of it. But this time around, he was really he was on it and pointed with his full hand. It was him. Like he got better at it, heard it better, and it worked out really well. I mean, everything seems to be just moving along, and it seems like they're finally fine-tuning everything that we've seen that may have had a little tweak here and there that could have improved. But I enjoyed it, and that fourth round I think may have been that turning point with Navarro getting 3 points and Burnett ending up canceling each other out, getting 0 there with that 2-point victory. I'm very happy for Navarro. Very happy.
I just had a couple other notes here. Did you notice in the speed round that Hector got the Superman Returns question over Robert Meyer Burnett, who I believe was a producer on the film? I thought that was hilarious, and I know that Robert was kind of beating himself up that he didn't get it quicker. All I ask is that they keep the buzzers away from Campia, because if you saw an episode recently,
pounding it, man.
They are down 1 buzzer for sure. I thought it was cool to see Jason Inman, friend of the show, calling out Hector Navarro. That could be a great match down the road. I for some reason, Inman didn't even pop into my mind. I don't know why. Maybe it's because he's got the tag title match coming up. But I think that could be a huge, huge matchup.
Yep.
The Young Bucks, Cobster, man. Cobster's making some wheels and deals. Gets Hector to join the Young Bucks. I don't know where that leaves Adam Havlicek, but we got Hector Navarro now in the Young Bucks.
Yeah, that was something I thought of too. It's like, well, he's with Superhero News. What's Adam going to do now? I mean, that's the other thing now. I don't know how big the Young Bucks are going to get, but I would love to see Cobster add in the Paul E. Dangerously cell phone, being on the cell phone. Since he's a producer now, why not? Have him come up and be like, hold on just a second, as he's talking to another client on his phone or something. That would be kind of a cool little thing. But yeah, I felt a little bad for Adam there. I mean, they're obviously not going to break up, but having him not as the group, who knows? I don't know, but it's a cool little thing, and that actually just makes the Young Bucks that much more credible with having a champion on their team. And speaking of real quick, a team. Could we now, Mr. Rocha, could we now get rid of those stupid hobby horses? You're now 0 for 2. Bibiani lost. You guys entered with those. Now Robert Meyer Burnett lost when you came out with that. I work around sports a lot with minor league baseball. They're superstitious. They're 0 for 2 now with these horses. Get rid of them. That could be something that could, I don't know, that I would get rid of them myself. I don't like.
Let's go even further. Let's take a look at the cumulative matchups for the 4 horsemen, their last 4 matchups. You have Rocha versus Riley, which Rocha did win. Team Top 10 versus the Patriots. Top 10 lost. Bibiani lost to JTE, and now Burnett has lost to Navarro. So that's 1 for their last 4.
Yeah.
So I think the 4 horsemen, I don't know, man. It's not looking great right now. It looks like maybe Finstock with the world champion in Dan Murrell, and also the tag team champions for the time being, Team Patriots. Looks like maybe the Lions Den has a leg up on the 4 horsemen, and even now the Young Bucks look to have a leg up with a champion there. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I kind of see it there too. Is the Lions Den has a mark on their record too, with Andreyko technically losing. They're down 1 too, and if this pattern continues, we may see Team Trek beating the Patriots the way that it's going. And so what's the credibility of 2 heel factions with a losing record now? I mean, so you've got to see something's got to you get a pep in their step, and hopefully, I don't know why I'm saying this, but hopefully it's the Patriots brings it all back. I mean, yeah, you've got Murrell. I mean, that's a golden ticket right there. But yeah, it's not looking good for the 2 heel factions right now. So you got to see something's got to give on one end. And tag team championship match is coming up, and right now it's not looking good. But that could be the turnaround for that team.
Can we just also take a second to wonder how big that InnerGeekdom belt is? Did that not look gigantic on Hector Navarro's shoulder?
Is it that big, or is Hector just that small?
I don't know. That's a great question. That is a great question.
I saw that when I was watching it in the car. My daughter, Selena, said, is the belt bigger than he is? It looks bigger than he is. So if my 11-year-old can notice that, I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, that's hard to say. That's a gigantic belt. But let me get to some top comments here. I had a couple that I found that I really enjoyed. This one comes from Twitter from It's Mr. Luis. He says, now that's a way to start championship week. # Navarro versus Burnett. Yeah, spot on, sir. This one comes from YouTube. Ash says, Robert Meyer Burnett reminds me of Bobby the Brain Heenan. I like the correlation. I think that might be spot on.
I like it. I do. Yeah. I like it very much. Yeah, he was one of my favorites as a villain. Even though he was the villain, he was still funny to look.
Yeah, God bless him. Bobby the Brain Heenan, not in the best of health right now. I actually saw him
not at all.
Not too long ago, and it just wasn't looking good for him, so keep him in your thoughts. All right, with that out of the way, let's jump into our championship week. It continues. We're talking team previews. It is Team Trek, Jason Inman and Scott Mance versus Team Patriots, JTE and Jeff Snyder. Now, JTE is riding the high off of beating Bibiani, taking the championships from Team Top 10 at the Spectacular. Jeff Snyder had the loss to Stuckman, but rebounded to get the tag titles. He's feeling pretty good. Team Patriots are feeling mighty cocky right now. Team Trek also riding the high, beat ETC pretty handily. Hasn't really had a tough challenge yet. So, Paul, you look at these two teams. You got Team Patriots as the champs. You got Team Trek. Who is the Patriots in this scenario, and who are the Falcons? What do you think?
That's a good question, because they're both good. It's just who's going to choke is what we're looking at. Out of the four, look at it again. No more Finstock, so the manager's gone. The last time we saw singles with Snyder, he lost to Stuckman. JTE right now is riding the high. He beat Bibiani. Then you look over there on Team Trek. You've got two guys that are each other. They seem to be simpatico. They seem to be very in tune with each other. Again, they've been beating teams left and right. They have earned where they are now. I'm seeing Team Trek team that could potentially dethrone the Patriots in this matchup.
You think we're going to get new champions? So the curse of the belt continues. No tag champion has ever defended the belt successfully.
No, I think the way it's going, probably we're going to have another title change.
Wow, okay. All right. I can respect that. I look at this match as a collision. You know, we've said the winning streaks and all that stuff, and both teams have an immense amount of knowledge coming in there. Snyder and Mance, I would like to see that as a singles match. I think that would be fantastic somewhere down the road. I concur. Absolutely. But JTE, man, JTE's got the hot hand. And now Jeff Snyder, where he and some people would say that Jeff Snyder kind of carried them to the championship a little bit because JTE was having a rough game. Maybe JTE carries the team this time and helps out, and Snyder's there to back him up this time. Scott Mance and Jason Inman, I feel like their time is not right now. I feel like they're going to be one of those teams. They're an elite team for sure, no doubt about it. I just feel like they're not quite to that Patriot level yet. I feel like the Patriots riding such a high. I tend to take the hot hand in these situations, and I'm going to stick with Team Patriots. I think they will be the first team to retain the tag team championships.
No, I was going to say, looking back again, now that we know the round one categories, Snyder, looking at it this way, Snyder's pretty good with animated. So is Inman. And then we've got dramas, and we've got action adventure. JTE's pretty strong in that. And of course, if they go action adventure, they might have, it might be something that Team Trek could do. So again, you see back in, like I said, it might be another one of those back and forths where we go down to that very last question one more time.
Not only do we have a championship tag match, we have also the Movie Trivia Schmoedown Championship. Before we get there next week, we have a primer. We have a regular singles match. It will be the Sheriff, Drew McWeeney, looking to continue his winning streak, versus another guy on a winning streak, Mike the Killer Kalinowski. Paul, how do you see this one going?
I'm going to put aside the fact that I do have Mike Kalinowski on my fantasy team, so I'll be rooting for him for the points. But looking at it, I mean, these two haven't gone for a while yet. I don't know exactly what McWeeney has been divulging in since his last match, and same thing with Kalinowski. Again, Kalinowski's only match was against Ashley, and that really wasn't very strong of an opponent. No offense, Ashley, friend of the show, but
we love you.
Performance. And so Kalinowski really wasn't challenged. Now, that's a little different seeing Bibiani and Andreyko. They were challenged. Those two guys butted heads, but then their follow-up was, as we saw, it was not very good of a follow-up. So seeing now Kalinowski go up against McWeeney, you have a stronger that gentleman there. And so I consider this one, because they haven't been away for a while, that might play a little bit of a factor, but they both really do know their knowledge. And again, we don't see very many blowouts anymore, and I'm honestly seeing this as, on the outside, maybe a TKO, but maybe going down again to maybe 1 or 2 points separating the two, because I do see them going back and forth on this one as well.
I was told from someone on the inside that the person to look out for in this league is not necessarily William Bibiani. It's not necessarily even John Rocha. That it is Drew McWeeney. Drew McWeeney is the one to look out for, because I just actually rewatched his match with Matt Nost, and while it wasn't like a barn burner performance because of the questions that were asked in certain scenarios, Drew McWeeney was very strong in that match. Had it gone further, McWeeney could have had a chance to actually tie or beat Bibiani's record. So you got to keep that in mind. Guy that is headed for big things. It's not a big enough sample size for me personally yet. Same thing with Mike Kalinowski. Yeah, he had the match against Ashley, like you said. He still looked pretty good in that match. I'm pretty confident in both of these guys are going to put on a fantastic match. I concur with everything you said. I think it's going to be very close, very back and forth. I'm going to give the edge to McWeeney. I could see Drew getting up there and challenging for that title at some point. Who knows? Maybe in the Ultimate Schmoedown, maybe even in the free-for-all, we might see Drew McWeeney get his chance. So look out, man. I think Drew McWeeney's a new guy that's on the rise. If we're kind of sleeping on Bibiani since he lost to JT and he's kind of out of the mix right now. But Drew McWeeney could be that guy to fill that void for sure.
Yeah, and I completely, I actually did not give my pick yet, but I would say 100% by 2, I'd say McWeeney's going to take it.
I think we can both agree that it's going to be a fantastic match either way. And not only that, guys, it's the big time now. The Movie Trivia Schmoedown Championship. Before we get to our title preview, I had the chance to sit down for about 5 to 8 minutes with John Rocha, and we talked about Dan Murrell. We talked about the future of Team Top 10. We talked about some other things. So listen to this piece.
What's up, Schmoedown fans? I got a special guest for you today. He has an upcoming title match with Dangerous Dan Murrell. He's one of your favorites. He is the Outlaw, John Rocha. Sir, thanks for joining us again.
Hey, thank you, man. Thanks for having me on. And who's Dangerous again? Dan?
That's what they said.
Enough. He ain't dangerous. That's what they say. That's right. That's not what I say. So what the Outlaw says.
What does the Outlaw think of Dan Murrell?
Look, I respect Dan Murrell as a competitor. Obviously, he's beaten some of the heavyweights in our competition. Clark Wolf, Mark Riley, Mark Ellis, who beat me by 1 question. Mark Ellis took him to the end, to the last question, with a lot of respect. But Dan Murrell's not unbeatable. He does have holes. I've seen him miss questions that I knew, and I've seen him get questions that I didn't know. So, to me, it's all a wash. He's a great champion, but it's time for a new champion. It's time for some new blood, and that's my blood.
Now, you've said from day one, since your very first match in the Schmoedown, that you are coming for that title belt. And now is your chance. The time is now. How are you feeling? How are you feeling going in?
I'm actually really relaxed. I'm not nervous at all. Like, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Everyone thinks Dan's going to win just about, and so I have no pressure on me. it's to be expected. If I win, it'll shock the world. So for me, I've never been more relaxed before a match or a fight in this entire Schmoedown, tag team or singles. Because what I know is what I know, and what I don't know, what I don't know, and now the twain shall meet, my friend. And so, to me, it's just the way I'm approaching it is way more relaxed. No tension, no fear, none of that stuff, because the pressure's all on Dan.
Well, I'm going to circle back to Dan here in just a second, but I have to ask you a question about last week's match between Josh McCouga and Finstock. Now, I know that you and Finstock have had your issues in the past. What did you think of that matchup?
Well, if you saw that gif of me jumping into McCouga's arms, that'll tell you how excited I was to see Finstock go down, any version of Finstock go down. It was such an interesting swerve that he pulled. I mean, Bibiani came out on Facebook and wanted to pull the swerve with me and saying, like, you're the outlaw, let me wear the mask. We can pull a Finstock. But that's not how I want to do things. That's not how I want to run the stable. That ain't what the Four Horsemen are all about. You know, we don't play little games. We don't, like, trick people. We don't do that stuff. And so it's typical of the Lions' Den, quote-unquote, the Lions' Den, right? It's more like a bunch of cubs doing that kind of stuff. And that's typical Finstock, right? Can't stand the heat, so he finds someone else to take it for him. And what happens? It backfires on him. Just like everything else he does in the Schmoedown, it always backfires on him. And Josh McCouga now has really come back into the conversation because of that victory. Mark Andrico is not an easy guy to beat. I respect to McCouga for him. And my beating McCouga looked even better now.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely gave you a little bit of a boost. Now, let's talk a little bit about team action. Now, I know that yourself and Matt Nose, Team Top 10, had the unfortunate loss at the Spectacular in a great match. One of my favorites of the Spectacular against Team Patriots. What is Team Top 10 looking forward to now? Is there a team in particular you want to take on? Are you looking to get back into team action? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of rumors in the wind that we might take on Harloff and Ellis, take on the Schmoes now again, because we did TKO him, which I know sticks in both Ellis's craw and Harloff's craw. And then we lost it to the Patriots, which I'm still super upset that we lost that match when we really had every chance to win that thing 2 or 3 times over. They did not beat us. They won. That's all that happened. They didn't beat us. They won. So we're looking to see who we're going to face next. Maybe it's Team Patriots if we do a rematch, or we have to do a number 1 contenders match, maybe against Team Trek or Team, I don't know, maybe Wolves of Steel. Like, I don't know. It's all up in the air. I leave it up to Kristian to schedule the matches. I just want to fight, and I'm ready. And I know Matt's ready.
All right. Well, let's circle back to Dan. Let's circle back to Dan here. Now, like I said, you've been wanting this match for the longest time. Do you see any holes in Dan's game? Where do you think you can take advantage and take down Dan?
Yeah, I think there's some holes that come to the superhero stuff, the classics. He doesn't know much about the classics from what I've seen. And God forbid he spins musicals. Who knows what could happen at that point? I mean, we saw with Bibiani, he has holes in scores and soundtracks, right? And most people do have holes in scores and soundtracks. That is not an easy topic.
Not at all.
To have a knowledge. So for me, I think classics are where Dan gets tripped up, and some of the superheroes, like the random superhero stuff, we've seen him get tripped up. So that's where I see the possibilities. But to be honest, Dan is one of the most complete competitors that you're ever going to face. So if I beat him, I'm going to need like my greatest game I've ever played, and he's going to have to stumble in a couple of moments that people don't see coming. So that's the way I'm approaching it. And all I can do is answer the questions in front of me, and that's all Dan can do too. And we'll see what happens at the end of the match.
Sounds good to me. Now let's just go ahead and close out here. Is there anything that you want to tell the Schmoedown listeners about the Outlaw going forward?
Yeah, listen, win or lose, you guys know I give 100% when I get in that ring when I fight. Now, I got distracted with the Ellis stuff. I had personal shit going on. I didn't focus, and I lost that match. I regret that loss because I really wanted that belt. And now I got a second chance. And now I'm facing Dan. And you know about the Outlaw, even when I lose, I get back up and I claw my way back to a title shot. You know, some of the Schmoeville guys have been shooting their mouths off about me. They bring up Bespin all the time. They bring up this crap about, like, oh, Rocha again. You know why Rocha again? Because Rocha wins. I beat Riley twice. I beat Harloff. I've beaten all these guys down the pike. I've beaten Makuga. I've beaten everybody to get to where I'm going. And it's my time now. And so get on my train, get on board with the Outlaw, see what happens, and I promise you, I'm going to win that fucking thing. I'm going to win that belt. And that's that.
There you have it, fans. He is the #1 contender for the Movie Trivia Schmoedown Championship. He will be taking on Dan Murrell next week as a part of Championship Week. He is the Outlaw, John Rocha. Sir, thanks again for taking the time, and I really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, man. Thanks for having me on. And Schmoeville, I'm looking forward to winning that belt for you and bringing it back home.
There you go. Get ready, folks. It's going to be a big one.
All right, Paul. After hearing what John Rocha had to say, does that sway you in any way? What do you think of Dan Murrell versus John Rocha, a match that really has been in the making since John Rocha came into this league about a year ago? It's about a year in the making.
That was some good insight, and it's really, really hard and root against Dan Murrell because of his track record. I mean, because of all the titles. It seems like he's almost hacking, as you would say, Rocha's phrase with he wants all the titles, he wants all the belts. It seems like he's got 3, he's going to try for a 4th, and, you know, he's constantly on that computer. He's constantly involved in all things Screen Junkies and being, and I mean, not saying that Rocha's not. I cannot, seeing the sample size of what Murrell has done, I can't go against what Murrell has done, and Rocha's going to take it this time. I don't think he's the one to bring it back to Collider.
All right, I completely understand that. Dan, from day one, since Dan came into the league, I think we knew when he took on John Campia and smoked him, absolutely smoked John Campia, that we knew that Dan was going to be a force in this league. You guys have seen him on movie fights. You know how great he is, even though he always seems to get the point. But anyway, Dan's a great competitor. John will tell you that. He tells you that in the interview. He said it many times. He has great respect for Dan. I think everybody in the league respects Dan Murrell, even though he's in the Lion's Den at the moment. I think everybody has a healthy respect and more or less fear of Dan Murrell and what he can do. Heavy is the crown, man. Dan Murrell's got to carry that title in this league of up-and-comers. There's sharks swimming in the water. JT's getting up there. Snyder, Clark Wolf, Mark Riley, even Kristian himself. Josh Makuga's got a hot hand right now. Who knows who could be? Ellis even could be right back in there. So there are sharks nipping at the heels of Dan Murrell, and I tend to think that John Rocha, while you said you don't think John Rocha is the guy, I think John Rocha at this point might be the guy. He seems confident. He seems focused. He doesn't seem like he's getting flustered. He seems ready to take down Dan Murrell and bring the title back. I don't think we're going to see a lot of outrageous Rocha ripping his shirt open and doing the crotch chop. I don't think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see the classic Rocha in a suit, just going to come in, sit down, respectfully take on Dan Murrell and beat him. I think this is the time for Rocha. The fans want Rocha to win mostly. While we all respect Dan Murrell, I think I speak for a majority of Schmoedown fans when I say I want to see the Outlaw ride away with the Movie Trivia Schmoedown title. I think it's time.
I said I completely want that to happen as well. It's like rooting for your favorite football team, playing a team that you know they're not going to win against, but you root for them anyway. I'm going to be on that sideline and rooting for Rocha. He's the only champion. Dan Murrell's the only champion to defend his title and retain it. I mean, out of anything and everything we've seen. And he's gathered up more titles since then. He stopped. I mean, the Giants beat the Patriots in that undefeated season that year. Anything can happen. That wheel could rear its ugly head, and there could be something that could be the kink in the armor that gets past Murrell, and he completely just bombs round 2, because I believe this is going to be a 5 round, just like today was with the InnerGeekdom. So that speed round could get him, or the betting round could get him. So you never know, that 1 or 2 points here and there could slip him up. But as of now, seeing Dan the way he is with his percentage of answering questions, and steals, but I'm going to be there in rooting for Rocha, wanting it to come back to Collider, but I just don't see it happening.
Fair points all around. Fair points. I really think it's Rocha's time. I think Rocha needs it. I think he needs it. He's a man on a mission. He's like a rabid dog, and he's not going to stop until he gets that championship. And he's also like Dan in the respect that not only does he want that championship, he wants he and Nos to be champs in the tag division again. I feel like he needs that. He feels like he needs that to feel validated to himself. We all know he's a great competitor, so I guess he feels that he's not validated until he is the one and only champion in this league, and I can totally respect that. So hopefully I'm sure it's gonna be a fantastic match. I'm sure the Collider Studios is gonna be bumping. People are gonna be super excited. It's gonna get intense in there. I'm getting kind of nervous. Like I'm ready to see it happen. I'm ready. Next Friday it goes down. John Rocha versus Dan Murrell for the Movie Trivia Schmoedown Championship. The reason that we watch this, we love those title matches. That's going to do it for this episode of the Schmoedown Rundown. My name is Aaron. You can find me on Twitter at ATTitanium. You can find me Sunday making my Schmoeville After Show debut with Brian Davids. Trust me, you're probably not going to want to miss that episode. Some big things happening. And Mr. Paul Wolf, where can you be found, sir?
And I want to kind of do my little spiel here. And Snelling, I tell you what, man, when we first started the after show way back about a year ago, honestly, when I came to Schmoeville and said, has anyone ever done a podcast about the Schmoes Know show and the stuff at Collider? I mean, when he and I jumped on it, I mean, he took it to the next level. David, same thing. We might have had beef here and there. I'm still squashing that, man. You have my respect. You know way more than I. In down Schmo, you name it, everything unbelievable. Jet to the next level, and with Aaron taking over, good luck, Snelling, and everything that you're going to be doing. I'll be following you closely on Twitter. Same thing, guys. Keep your hearts and prayers out there for anybody and everybody in New Orleans right now. They are near and dear to my heart. It's kind of like my home away from home with the tornadoes that had just hit. So. Prayers as well. Okay, now that that's out of the way, you can find me on Twitter at the Mr. Wolf and Instagram at the Mr. Wolf 12, and of course, pages Movie Trivia Schmoedown, the Fan Movie Trivia Schmoedown, and of course Schmoeville.
This is the Schmoedown Rundown. We'll catch you next week. We'll see you.